The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Alrighty, it is 1 minute after the hour, and I will do our traditional sound and screen check. If you can see my screen and hear me okay, then just type in a 1 in the chat box. If you've been here before, you know the drill. Type in a 1. We got all kinds of 1s. Oh, that cool. Very good. Okay, lots of 1s there. So on right now, I'll start this in just a couple of minutes. Still see people pilot on, but I want to reward those who show up on time. Punctuality is important. What do they say? 80% of success is just showing up, right? Well, yeah, that and taking some massive action, but you got to show up and then take action. So let me get the recording all set up, and then we'll get started going here. Oh, lots of people on today. Appreciate that. Always, I know how valuable your time is, and so we're going to over-deliver. And obviously, this is just pure training. Okay, so yeah, I already have some technical difficulties. Hang on 1 second. Okay, got that cleared up quickly. Okay, boom. Let's put this down. I'll hit the record button. Get the screen large. We'll start in 3, 2. Welcome everybody to the CallZoo coaching call, December 5th, 2015. Where the heck did the entire year go? I got no idea. I'm telling you, I just feel like it was literally, I feel like last week we were planning a Christmas vacation, and we went to some islands near Spain. That's where we were. It seemed like the right thing to do, and all of a sudden now it's Christmas again. We've already planned our next vacation, and we're going to be off and going. It's just unbelievable how quickly time flies by. So let's go ahead and get started here. The new format that I've been doing, I'm getting a lot of positive feedback for it, so I'm just going to continue with it. Is I'm going to share with you for the first 10 or 15 minutes or so kind of what's on my mind. As some of you may or may not know, when I wake in the morning, spend a few minutes meditating, and then I read. If you don't read, start right now. Okay, so I'm going to share with you, so in the first 10 or 15 minutes, just kind of sharing with you what's on my mind. And then after that, we got tons of really good questions. So I have all of those. I'm not sure we'll get to any other questions because there was so many questions involved. But as you know, if you've been here before, I stick it out. So I'm here for the long haul. There is no 1 hour minute or 1 hour limit or 2 hour or whatever. I'm here for the long haul. But usually after about 2 hours, 2 hours and 20 minutes, my throat starts to get pretty harsh. So we'll take it as long as we can. So let's go ahead and get started on here. So what I want to share with you today in the first part of the series on here is why I teach my daughters. I have 2 daughters, by the way. And why I'm teaching them to never take free dinners from a guy. Now, of course, when they grow up, they're not quite the dating age, but they're going to get there fast enough, right? But I'm teaching them right now not to take that. Why am I doing that? Some of these concepts I'm going to share with you are going to be kind of initially controversial, especially if you're like most people and you fall into the groupthink category and stuff. I can talk about that some other time. But anyways, so getting a free dinner from guys on a date is like one of the dumbest things a girl could do. And this is what I strongly believe. I'm going to share with you why. It has a lot of other life implications to it and business implications. That's why I'm sharing it with you. So first, let's say why it sounds like a smart idea. Well, it sounds like a smart idea because, well, first of all, the guy's willing to pay, right? So why not? And he wants to take her out to get to know her, so he probably asked her out anyway. So, of course, why not? And it's kind of the traditional thing to do. isn't it? Yeah, it normally is. Now, let's talk about here why you wouldn't want to take the free dinner, especially if you're a young lady or a single lady on that. So, okay, so here's why. First of all, nothing good in life ever happens without working for it, okay? Or, you could say misrepresenting yourself. I'm going to expand this out a little bit, okay? So expand the net out a little bit. So don't, if you're a female on here, don't take this the wrong way. Or misrepresenting yourself. Although there are females that definitely do that and get free lunches and homes and cars and all that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. And typically people that kind of swindle things or get little freebies in life, or they just get things kind of given to them, like rich kids. Okay, it just never works out. So let me give some examples of when I was a kid. Okay, so when I was a kid, I was raised by a single mother, and she was working 2 jobs and going to school at the same time. So she was never home, basically. And so me and my friend used to go out. We used to get in quite a little bit of trouble. But at this time, this was back in the 70s, if I date myself here, vending machines, like soda vending machines, were not the same as they are today. And back then, if you had like small arms, like little 10-year-old boys, you could reach up in there and just start pulling out all of the cans of Coke. And so we used to go to a university campus that was close by, and we'd go in there and just raid it with Coke. I mean, we'd get like hundreds, literally hundreds of cans of all kinds of Coke and Crush and stuff like that. But on this, these things are not good to do. Not just for moral reasons, but what they actually train and teach your mind on that. So, typically people who like swindle things or get freebies, we all want freebie kind of stuff, right? It never works out because it completely stops the process of becoming a mature adult, okay? And if you actually become a mature adult, the rewards are so much greater than not. And if you become the opposite, then you just become, the opposite is a lazy person that feels entitled. There's a lot of entitlement out there. We live in really one of the most affluent societies in history. Seriously, we do. If you guys study history, you look back, I mean, the opportunities that we have are just phenomenal. And some people call this a recession, and they complain about things and the high prices of things, but this is really the best society has ever been. And I want to add a caveat, that really depends on where you live on the world. I totally realize that. It's not that way everywhere in the world, unfortunately. So basically what I'm saying right there is if you can't succeed right now in this economic environment on here, then you've got some issues and you need to really listen up. So the majority of people do not have the ability right now to climb up the so-called economic ladder, and why is that? A lot of people can't, and I'm going to share with you it's because they're lazy. Okay, it's the bottom line. All right, it's because they're lazy. I want to talk to you about laziness at this point. And when I entered in with my daughters and stuff, it's really because that instills a mindset of laziness. When my daughters go out for a date with a guy, they're going to pay for themselves. And they're going to pay for themselves not with money I just handed to them, because that defeats the purpose, but money they had to earn through either doing chores or whatever. Okay, so. So the people, they tend to kind of take the easy way out. Most people are really, in this day and age, are handicapped with laziness so severely and wanting kind of handouts and free things. I just see this more and more, guys. I see this everywhere. And, you know, look, I've never played the lottery, okay, and I don't gamble. I go to Vegas, I don't gamble. We go out to shows and stuff. But what if I told you that I don't even want to win the lottery? I don't. I would never want to win the lottery. And, you know, maybe you believe me, maybe you don't. Maybe you just think I'm trying to be tough or make a point. But you know what? I mean, I guess if I won, you know, I've already created the habits of, you know, working really hard. I'd probably just put it away for future generations or something. But generally speaking, I'd never want to win the lottery. And the reason is because I don't want any free money. I want to work for every dollar that I earn. There's really a lot to be said for that. It keeps you in control. It keeps you alive. It keeps your clarity there. You know, and really to do that kind of stuff, you have to transfer value from person to person. So when a girl takes those meals from guys, even if it's under kind of so-called traditional kind of, you know, the guy is supposed to pay on that, what is happening is they have this constant kind of easy way out. It's this little escape door. It's this, you know, from doing work. It allows them to kind of coast along. And look, you know, my daughters or other girls out there, you know, they may have these perfect genetic brains that could actually accomplish incredible amount. But because they start taking freebies and it starts to kind of take a life of its own, it becomes difficult to become their full self by just simply doing the hard work. And same for guys growing up doing a little scammy stuff. You know, luckily I was able to kind of break free of that, and I didn't get into that mode on that. So, you know, I mean, our minds are trained. You know, we're inherently trained on here for minimized time for maximum effort on that. And if you look at our study, there's a really good book out by a biography by Arnold Schwarzenegger. May or not be a fan of him, but he's accomplished an incredible amount. And what's amazing is, if you, I forget the name of the book, but if you read the, some months, most likely it's out. But anyways, when I was reading it, I was just amazed. I'm always like, no, how does that guy, that guy accomplished so much? How did he do it? I mean, what's his mindset like? I mean, what's going on in his brain that's not going in mine or yours? Well, what I learned early on, it was like a tiny two sentences in the whole book, but it explained it all, okay? And it explained that his father would make Arnold do push-ups and sit-ups before a meal, okay? So, in other words, what he was instilling from just the early ages, you know, 4 or 5 years old, is that you got to work hard to get your reward. You see, Arnold's hardwired different than the rest of us. Let's just be honest. He's totally hardwired different, and this is why. And anyways, so look, I believe that laziness in general really ruins people. And this is a really interesting because humans are hardwired naturally, which I've read in evolutionary books and stuff like this, that really minimum effort for maximum results. It's just our behavior. And it's our behavior not just psychologically, but in every cell in our body. Seriously, it's just like, it's not just like some psychology voodoo stuff. It's everywhere in our body. So take, for example, astronauts. If you take astronauts and they go up into space for 2 months, what happens to their bones when they come back to Earth? Their bones become brittle, and their muscles become brittle, and their muscles become weak. Because why? The cells say, well, we don't need to work that hard, so might as well just relax. You know, we don't need to put in this much effort anymore to stay this strong. We'll just relax, okay? So, look, that inherent value that we have in every cell of our body to gain maximum effort a maximum value for minimum effort served us for however long, millions of years. But look, we have this perfectly built brain that behaves outstanding for about probably 75,000 years ago. Today, it's in total chaos. And that's kind of what I'm talking about here. I could talk about this for hours, but this is one aspect of it. So, it's worked great before this modern era that we live in now. And the problem with it is when people get lazy, what you have to realize is that once you start working hard and enjoying what you're doing, it is really not that hard to do. It's actually pretty easy to do. So it's kind of like, I don't know, I mean, the hardest part of beating laziness is just kind of switching gears. And I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but let me give an example. It's kind of like eating healthy. We all know, a lot of us know we need to eat healthier on that. And really the hard part of eating healthier is really just the 4 to 8 weeks. I mean, if we can really stick with it consistently for the 4 to 8 weeks, then it just becomes a habit. But that first part is kind of tough. Same thing with laziness. It really, I see it in so many people, it's unbelievable. I'm going to talk about some other areas of it because sometimes it's not so obvious. It comes out in hate, objections, stuff like this. So, I've watched laziness over time literally totally devastate and ruin lives. The reason is that once laziness kind of kicks in, people, this is what's funny about people, is they will do whatever it takes and make whatever lies that they need to do in order to stay lazy. So what do I mean by that? So let's look at maybe, starting an online business or whatever, starting something new, okay? People want to learn the secrets, say for example, of building, income from an online business, but not having to do the work. And in fact, maybe even outsourcing the majority of it is what they're taught to do. And, this kind of push button, 4-hour-a-week stuff, come on, let's be real. It doesn't work. It's not going to happen, okay? If it does, let me know, because I'm all for it, but because inherently, my genes, I'm all for it, obviously, but I just haven't seen it out there in reality. So what happens is that they try an online business, and they do not internalize it, and they end up failing, and they start kind of bitching about it, okay? So they become kind of one of those people that whines and complains, and internet forums or wherever, or Facebook, are people that say, all those internet courses, like the Amazon courses, the offline courses, the eBay courses, or whatever, they're all just scams and it doesn't work. Because that's how they need to rationalize it. That's how they need to support their laziness. Okay, I'm going to talk about that here. I'm going to get in deeper into that in a second. But let me give another example on that, and let's look at the diet industry. There's a product. It was originally when it first came out. It was an ESA stack. I think it was an ESA stack. I might be wrong, but it's basically, I think, ephedrine and caffeine and a couple of other things. But it became illegal, at least in the U.S. And it worked for some extent. But basically, what it is, it kind of created this whole diet pill industry. So companies like Hydroxycut, I think is what it was called, copied the formula, and they ended up selling it and promoting it better and whatever. But anyways, it ended up getting pushed out of the marketplace, but the existing pills on the market, which they state and they still are today, they're not as effective. And most of them, I was reading a study the other day, is that they allow you to lose maybe 7% more body fat. So, I mean, let's put that in perspective. If you were trying to lose 100 pounds, these pills will only make you lose 7% more, which is less than a pound, which is less than 7 pounds. It's very, very little. So, you know, and the really effects of that is the reason they would lose the weight is just simply because they become more jittery and they start moving more was the conclusion because they're all jittery and they move more. So that's how they actually lose the weight. But see, most people are just lazy, just flat out lazy, period. So when faced with the decision to learn about, say, nutrition, do proper diet, or, you know, pop a pill, the pill makes it easy. And what happens is they end up taking the pill instead. It's just an easier, lazier choice. But when they get off the pill, what happens? We all know what happens. They gain the weight right back, right? Because they've not cultivated the habits to maintain the weight loss. And the weight just jumps right back on. And so it's an easy choice. You haven't cultivated the habits it takes to maintain that, and you're going to gain it right back when you lose the pill. So you want to know the big thing in laziness that's become very popular that I've seen in my own industry and others on that just out there is this whole idea of passive income streams. You know, passive income, kind of push button stuff. Things like, it started a few years ago, things like the Tim Ferriss 4-Hour Workweek, which really kind of pushes and touches at the dream of doing less and getting more. And it just kind of feeds into the whole laziness on that. And our inherent trait that, you know, every cell in our body really wants to get the most for the least amount of work, which worked fantastic probably thousands and thousands of years ago, but today, not so. I mean, I totally respect Tim Ferriss. I listen to his podcast on here, and I know his message wasn't that. I think people misinterpreted it on that end, but it was misconstrued. He's really talking about streamlining and just really becoming more efficient. I totally get that. But most look at that kind of thing and they kind of think, oh, I got a dream. I don't have to do nothing, right? And I'm going to get paid. Or I'm going to do very little and I'm going to get paid. Or I have a dream that I'll take a pill and lose 20 pounds. It just falls into the same whole, you know, inherent psychological thing that we have. And in the society that we're in today, it just feeds into it. It makes people more lazy on that. Okay, so that's what I'm getting at. I'm not pointing at anybody directly, so if you're listening to this, you know, don't get defensive. And the people that do this and they act on it, the thing that's kind of strange is that, you know, they really believe they're doing the right thing. They really think they're doing the cool thing. You know, they're taking the pill, they're doing the 4-hour work week. I mean, I think they're doing the right cool thing, you know, and you know that's the same for, you know, a guy that's like a kid who's scamming others for free things and stuff like this. You know, they think it's cool. I mean, I remember I was a kid. You know, I told you earlier, we were like stealing, you know, soda cans. We were reaching up because our arms were small enough. We could reach up into the vending machines and just start popping out, you know, cans of soda and stuff. And, you know, we thought it was cool. Absolutely, we thought we were top of the world cool, you know, or even the girl, the guy that takes the weight loss pills. So it's the same type of feeling. It like reinforces that whole thing. It's a really vicious cycle. So, look, I'm going to wrap this up here. I feel like I've been rambling too long with this. But anyways, here's the bottom line in life. There's a right way and a wrong way to do things. If you're going to try to get, say, for example, big muscle in the gym, the wrong way would be to take steroids and just totally kind of mess up your body, and who knows what kind of implications that would have. And or you could take the slow, steady way, and you could build a nice looking physique, and you could have, you know, longevity and look younger and all that kind of stuff. So there's a right way and a wrong way to do things on here, okay? If you want to look younger, Okay. You can say, you know what, I'm just going to do the plastic surgery thing when I get older, which we all know it just looks, you know, if you're 55 years old and you do plastic surgery, you just look like you're 55 and you did plastic surgery, right? I mean, let's be honest. But that's the wrong way. The right way is, you know, plan early on, the slow method. Eat the right food, take a rest, be wary of your cortisol levels, the stress levels, keep them down low, meditate, make sure you get enough sleep, give yourself the environment to do that, you know, a dark room to sleep in, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. That's a whole other 2-hour conversation. But anyways, and take the right kind of foods and nutrients that are anti-aging. And then when you're 55, you're going to look freaking fantastic, not like a surgical project. So, and anyways. So there's always a right way and a wrong way to do things, right? So a right way to get ahead, right, is to work really smart and strategically, but willing to do the hard work. Look, the penalties of laziness, the reason lazy people do not win is because they have to lie to themselves. They have to lie to themselves. Listen closely. And they have to lie to themselves to preserve the lazy behavior, okay? Laziness is fundamentally an addiction. Do you understand that emotions are addictional? They seriously are, okay? It is addiction to like the chill state on that. But, you know, you have to really watch brilliant people succumb to what they can, their abilities on that end of it. And they surpass the laziness on that. But on the other hand, I've seen absolutely amazing, talented people in my own personal life. I could have been one of those people easily, easily. I've seen absolutely amazing people in the last several years succumb to laziness, and it's completely ruined their lives. You know, some people, you know, I don't hear people talking about laziness, so this is kind of weird. I'm talking about laziness. I've seen it out there in the world. It is so pervasive, and it is so dangerous, and I believe I understand the core of it, where it comes from. You know, I don't know if I'm right or wrong. You know, I'm a student always. I'm always open to learn. But you know, I think it really comes down to our inherent values in every one of our, literally every one of our cells in our body. It's just, and it just kind of makes sense, right? You're just, you know, you want to gain the maximum amount of energy from the minimum amount of effort. And, you know, thousands, maybe 50,000 years ago, 75,000 years ago, that's so incredible to think about. You know, where, you know, we're all, you know, everybody you know right now is going to be gone in at least 100 years. Every person that you look around is going to be gone in 100 years. That's an awesome, awesome thought to think about. I remember in high school when science teacher was saying that the Earth, the universe just keeps expanding and expanding out. I had to wrap my mind around that. I still have a difficult time with that. Just keep expanding out like there's no end to it. Then I finally accepted it. It's just like there's just abundance, endless amount. Anyways, I'm going off on a side topic. Let me redirect back in. So, look, where the hell was I? So, hold on 1 second while I get a drink here. I promise I'm almost done with this, and we'll get on to the technical questions that everybody sent in. But really, here's the bottom line in life, is that there's a right way and a wrong way to do things, you know. And the laziness, the reason that people are laziness is that, you know, that they end up, they have to lie to themselves to preserve lazy behavior, because laziness is fundamentally an addiction, as I was saying earlier. It's an emotional addiction. And those are real addictions, okay? Those affect the brain. If you study the brain, there's so many great books and studies, sidetracking, but there's so many great books and studies out there on addiction and all kinds of addictions, including emotional addictions. And laziness is a real emotional addiction. I don't know anyone else who's talking about this shit. So, take heart to this. You can just slide it to the side and say, this is a bunch of bullshit or whatever, or you can kind of listen in on here, but tune in or tune out, it's up to you. So there's a right way and a wrong way to kind of get ahead in life in here, and on that. So if a person gets to a point that they get addicted to this laziness, and it's for real, people, it is so for real. What happens is their brain, listen up, okay, this is going to get juicy and this is going to kind of get deep. What happens, the brain gets to justify the behavior, okay? They have to justify, your brain wants to justify your behavior. So it is so freaking scary about laziness. I literally see it everywhere, okay? When I'm walking out in the streets, I unfortunately see it in friends. I just see it everywhere, and I think you will too if you're tuned into this. So what happens is that it's so super scary on here because people have got to rationalize their behaviors with lies. Maybe that's kind of a strong term, but I'll just call it half-truths, right? Not lie, but you have to kind of rationalize things with half-truths. But remember that whenever you lie to yourself or tell yourself half-truths, what happens to your current belief system? What happens? What happens is this whole stacking thing. It's like more lies, more half-truths, because you have to keep supporting it in different situations in life. So there's like more lies, more half-truths, and it just keeps going on and on and on. I posted a thing on Facebook the other day about how I was sick and tired of seeing people posting their fancy cars and houses, and what about real wealth and the 4 levels of it and stuff. But what interesting happened is that the people that responded to that was their true core value on money, which they brought up terms like a slippery slope, it can ruin your life, negative, all this kind of stuff. I was like, oh my God, I posted one thing, but all these people are really exposing their true beliefs toward money, which is a rationale. They're rationalizing their laziness, okay? Oh, I could pick that apart for hours. That would be a wonderful discussion. But anyways, so, I don't know. Sometimes you just feel like there's not enough time, right? So, and that's why I hate sleep. I wake up every morning and go, damn it, I just wasted 6 hours of time. So this is what oftentimes happens, is that when you try to share like what you're doing, let's talk to you directly on here. When you're trying to share what you're doing on here, say with your offline business and growing up in business, a lot of other people just simply, they just don't get it, okay? Because you tell them, something, and they say, yeah, but I think this. And then you prove to them that that's wrong, and then they say, yeah, but what about this? And then and you just kind of go back and forth like that, and just totally messes with their mind, because you're trying to weave through their web of lies, their justifications of why they're lazy over time, okay? So, and it just can't, it's hard to unwire all of that, okay? So then you just kind of move on. And, you move on, and they move on, and they move on, and they say, well, you know what, I'm just going to focus on my career and going to college and get a good job and blah, 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 whole group thing type of bullshit stuff. But anyways, so once the person has become addicted to the emotions of laziness, okay, and this is what I really want to get at here, is that these emotions entirely enter the body. Understand that emotions enter the body. So think of that time when you've, I don't know, you've had very strong emotions. Do they or do they not affect the body? In fact, just right now, I recall when I used to do a lot more speaking engagements, I would bring people up on stage and I would ask them emotional questions and have them hold their arms up to the side, right? And then I would put just one finger on their wrist and I would try to pull their arm down to their waist. And if I asked them a positive statement, I couldn't do it. But if I asked them a negative statement, I'd just pull that arm right down. I'd always pick out the biggest, strongest guys in the room. But anyways, once the person's become addicted to this, it takes over. It's not just the mind, it's not just emotion, it takes over the entire freaking body. And it wants to perpetuate itself, okay? So you understand that emotions are totally addictive, okay? And they totally take over the body. They really do. In fact, I use that same test that I was just talking about where you have someone raise their hand and stuff like this. I use that to test if my kids are lying or not, because I know right away by that. Okay, so once that person gets in that emotional kind of state and the brain wants to sustain it, they want to keep it on that end of it. So they will typically not come out of it. This is the really frightening part. They actually kind of become like lost people. Okay, and I don't want you to become one of these people. That's why I'm sharing this with you. So what happens is they kind of fall off the path on that, and there's plenty of others they can find on the other path when they get there on that, and they keep lying to themselves, and they create this whole web of lies. It's one lie, and that should tell another one, or half-truths if the lie is too strong for you, half-truths on that in order to preserve that state of laziness. And it usually at some point it manifests into kind of a little bit of hostility, of like hating or opposing other groups of people. Rich people are bad. Money is bad. That's a scam. Oh, that doesn't work. All that kind of stuff. So, look, so the biggest thing that motivates me to not be lazy, and should you, is that I've literally seen people, when you look at it from a different perspective, like where I've been, and understand it. I mean, I've been around for almost 50 years, holy shit, and been through a hell of a lot. And when I look back, I've seen a lot of people just totally go crazy with this stuff, literally. I mean, I would call it silently crazy, for real. But what's really super cool about hard work, what's really cool about it, is that it brings you back to reality, man, again and again. Because when you take on projects, okay, and you have a purpose and a passion, you may have these little lies or bullshits of how the world should be or should work, right? And then it all of a sudden doesn't work, and you're confronted with reality. But when you actually try to do the shit, okay, actually try to do the stuff on that, you're continuously confronted with reality, which keeps you on a course. So many good things with working hard, so many wonderful things with the fact that Arnold Schwarzenegger's dad made him do exercise, made him work for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm opposed to breakfast, lunch, and dinner, by the way, but that's another topic. So when you're forced with reality, it's really hard to rationalize it. You can't rationalize it anymore. It kind of undoes the web, okay? Instead, what do you got to do to survive? You got to take freaking action and move forward, okay? So a lazy person is given the luxury when confronted with reality to create lies upon lies upon lies, and this whole web, it gets all complicated and shit. And man, if you really take in what I'm saying and you go out and you start talking with people, you'll start feeling their web. It's like, holy shit, this is really true. And then they just basically, they just kind of lose their lives. We're all going to end this incredible world and reality or whatever it is. We're going to end this thing, so you might as well live this thing to your fullest. So so where is a person who is not lazy on here? It's continuously being brought back to reality, and then that forces someone to think clearly. They have to be humble to reality. They have to be humble to Mother Nature. All this kind of stuff on here. So I feel like it's going on way too long. I'm so sorry here. So what I think is really interesting is that people who gain success, okay, because they always like this big mystery, that some gain it really fast, right? And some gain it slow. And the people who gain it fast, we've all come across these people, I'm sure, before. At some points in our life, somehow, they just kind of come off as arrogant and like kind of arrogant, the end all, the be all, and then just kind of disappear. But the people who gain it slow, do hard work, slow, when you meet them, they're really freaking super confident, and you're able to connect with them. They're just like normal. You just kind of, they're just like a normal person on that. But they gained it the slow, real way. They didn't get like some burst of kind of lucky circumstances on that. So the people that gain it slowly, and they have this humble appreciation for success on that success, and they have this whole kind of attitude, kind of like I do. I've met other people like this, and I connect with them. I just kind of figured out why I do connect with them, because we're just kind of silently all in this agreement that, what, success is freaking hard. Okay, it's not a joke, right? Anyways, so these days when you see people, they get success. You get this, a lot of times in the media you see these overnight, well, so-called overnight successes. You sort of think like, oh, that could be me, Or there's reality TV, which I have literally not watched television in like 4 years. So I don't know if the example's going to be right, but they get this kind of diva behavior. It was like, I remember when I was in the States, it was like Jersey Shores. I literally couldn't watch that for more than 5 minutes. It was horrific. But I don't even know if it's still on. I probably should have researched it before. But like Jersey Shore is a reality TV show where they really all act like infantiles. They're just like little kids, like demanding things. I need it now, and all this kind of stuff. It's just ridiculous. And people look at that and they think that that's the kind of behaviors that they need to adopt to be successful. I mean, no, it ain't gonna happen. That's a reality show. That is not reality. Okay, reality show. What a joke to call that. Well, it'd be a better name for that. Anyways, so people who gain success the right way, nice and slow and steady on that. And I'm not talking about, oh, my success is happening too fast, I've got to slow down. No, you just gain it slow and steady, okay, and you enjoy and you feel entitlement for the successes on the way, and you keep rising up, okay. So, recall that there's a right way and a wrong way to do things on that end of it, and understand that I mean, for example, I lost. Some of you know about my history. I don't make it that public. I should probably open a blog or something like that, but I'm busy for that kind of stuff. But anyways, I lost a little over 50 pounds when I entered the transformation contest with Joe Phillips. It's completely changed my life. I could talk about that for 2 or 3 hours, but I did it in such a way, not the short-term way, and this was back in 2008, 2009, and 2008 was when I started. Is when I lost the 50 pounds, on that, every step of the way, I asked myself, this eating habit that I'm doing, is this sustainable? Is this exercise that I'm doing sustainable? And I immediately cut it out. I was like, I went and got, I had a trainer, and the trainer was like, well, you got to do cardio for 45 minutes a day, 5 days a week, and I'm thinking to myself, that's not sustainable. I can't do that. So I didn't. Anyways, so, but you know, the slower way is always the sustainable way. And another way to put it is sometimes the longest path is the shortest path to success or wherever you want to go. So look, my point is this. Everyone has it. I have it. You have it. Let's be honest, okay? We all have laziness in our lives. And I hope that I've demonstrated the really destructive power of laziness and how it can literally ruin lives. I mean, an entire life, an entire lifetime. I could literally go on for so long about this kind of topic on you, but recognize in your life and be open to the kind of web of rationalizations, the half-truths maybe you've told yourself on you to kind of maintain your current state of emotion. Okay, your brain's hardwired for that, by the way. So you kind of want to retrain your brain. Think of Arnold on that as his dad teaching. You got to work hard for everything that you get in life, even your next meal. What an awesome message to instill. And let's freaking be honest. I mean, if you really study Arnold, whether you like him or not, it doesn't matter. You know, study his accomplishments. He's hardwired different. Cold fact. Okay, facts don't lie on that. So, and then, you know, by the way, if you have daughters, well, you might want to teach them when they get old enough to maybe work, maybe not accept free dinners and stuff from guys. And my daughters are really nice looking. They're going to get a lot of dates when they get older. It's going to be tough on me, but as long as they got the lessons, they're fine. And if you got younger boys, you know, it's not going to be harmful to teach them to get up the next morning and do some push-ups and sit-ups before they have breakfast, right? All right, I'm done with my rant. Let's get on to the technical stuff. But understand this. Success is not compartmentalized, okay? You cannot compartmentalize success. You can't just, when we get into discussion, we get a lot of SEO questions and all this kind of technical stuff. You can't compartmentalize that shit, people, okay? You've got to expand it out to your entire life, okay? Look, someone's success rarely, if ever, exceeds the personal development. Hence is why I start with these conversations. All right, so we're going to get into it. All right, so like I've got a lot of great questions in here. I want to thank everybody in advance for sending them in. We got like a record number of questions in, so I want to honor those questions, and here we go. I haven't looked at these, by the way. I just had them sent in, so this is my first time looking at them. SEO competition, easy, difficult of getting ranked. Please talk more about SEO competition, factors in getting ranked, the factors that you see that indicate it will be easier to rank, the factors that indicate it will be harder. Okay, easy question to answer. In the course, I just download the free plugin from Majestica and for your Firefox browser, and take a look at that. I did some videos of it. You download it and you look at it, and it will show you the trust factor and the amount of referring backlinks to that particular site. And I would suggest looking at, well, initially the first site that's ranking #1 for keywords per city, but then slow down and start to look at the first 3 sites. And my recommendation is a trust factor of 10 or less and referring domains of 30 or less. Now those are just guidelines, and every city is going to be slightly different. But you might find a state with 2 or 3 cities within it that fits the other criteria for your search volume and stuff like that, that fits the criteria I'm just talking about. That might be a good place to start. Because there might be other cities that might be higher. That's okay. Build your site up, your master domain site up, get the backlinks to it, and then when you start to expand and move out to other cities under the same domain, you're going to have a lot of trust authority. It's going to be a lot easier to rank in those other cities. So that's how you look at it. And then I did announce in the Facebook group, and did I announce it anywhere else? Yes, in module 4 or 5. I mean, my mission statement for this group is I want to see you guys succeed. That's it. I want to see you guys succeed, so, and gals. So one of the things that we'll be offering is within my company, I've got 34 employees. We're a good coastal lawn company, but we've got some proprietary methods that we obtain Weebly and Tumblr URLs that people have just kind of forgotten about and let go, and we find them, and they've got trust factors of 10 and above, right? And you don't have to pay for hosting, nothing, and I'll show you how to repurpose those to your theme and all that kind of stuff. Super powerful. So that's why I recommend those. So I hope that answers your question. Let me move on. Regarding the one authority site, okay, so one authority site for one niche, it would be one authority site per state, correct. Let me continue reading. Regarding the cities, in terms of population size, which cities would you recommend getting in first? Smaller cities, that you rank for, or for cities that are recommending Google by My Business Listings? Good question, and let me answer this question on here. To kind of clear any confusion on that end of it. So, first of all, as far as the city population, that shouldn't be your leading question. In fact, that should be a kind of a non-question whatsoever. Is that, who cares what the population is? What do we care about? We have as I outlined in the course, we have a minimum set of searches, minimum. Okay, as long as it meets those searches that are above, check it off. It's totally cool to start. As far as the authority per site, when you're looking at a particular city stuff, as long as it hits all the other criteria, it's got the 250 searches minimum per month. The competition at the top 1, 2, 3, it's got a trust score of 10 or less, and 30 referring links or less. That's referring links. Then it's a green light. And these are just guidelines. If it's a little bit higher, that's fine. Okay, I'm just trying to set you up for a really ideal situation. That's all. And there's a lot of them out there, by the way. So I thought very clearly about those guidelines. So next question. In terms of selecting a niche, okay, in consideration of being able to sell the leads, there was a comment on the Facebook group about how someone in the plumber niche was not able to sell the leads, which I find surprising. And so do I. Could you talk about it? Ways of determining easy, difficult factors and being able to actually sell the leads. Okay, so there's a few things in this whole business of, lead gen business, right? Selling the calls, selling the email leads to local businesses. The first kind of fear factor is, can I rank this site? We've done everything in our power to make sure that you can. I talked about that earlier. The other thing I didn't talk about is including our proprietary method of trading, of finding Weebly's of 10 plus trust factor, and Tumblrs, which is a lot of them out there. Most people have no clue about how to find them. We're just going to give those to you, okay? Can't be abused. We'll give those to you. And we're going to give you the training on how to repurpose them into your niche. It's a lot easier than you think it is. Recognize, my company's got over 3,000 sites ranking page 1. And this is how we do it. So this is fact. This is not theory, okay? We don't fall into group think at Call-O-Loot, all right? We fall into fact and experimentation and working hard, not laziness. And the other thing that we're going to do is that, a lot of you on the call right now, I've heard of private blog networks, PBNs. When you're at the level my company is right now, and you want to scale, and if you been involved in my training, you've heard that word a lot, scaling. And how do we scale and grow? The problem is that there's a lot of good, expired domains and stuff like that out there. But they're like 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 bucks. We've developed a method through our programmers that we're able to find domains that have a trust flow of 14, 15, 18 and above, which would go for 80, 90, 100 bucks on the open market, and just buy it for whatever, just go to Namecheap or whatever place you want to buy a domain, and it's right there, and just buy it. You don't have to wait for expired domain or none of that kind of junk. Okay, that's called scaling. That's called streamlining the system. Okay, and we're offering that. We're going to give you a list of those and stuff. And so you can just go out and buy from we didn't buy them and then we're going to be the middle person. It's just like, hey, these are available right now. These are the trust flows. They're not from bad neighborhoods. They're available to the public right now. Here they are. They're not available on, private blog network type places and stuff like this. So anyways, so that's enough said with that, but just keep in mind that when everyone's going left, we go right, in this example of going right. I don't know if I answered your question, maybe I didn't. I have a terrible habit of going off on tangents. Okay, so anyways, yeah, and you know what? You and I don't know the particulars of how, how many leads this person had, how they approached the other plumber businesses on this end of it, but trust me when I say this, the most valuable thing to an offline business is not SEO that will lead to leads. It's not spending money on Google AdWords that will eventually lead to leads. It's none of that kind of crap. It's boom, instant leads for a set price, done deal. That's like, it's a dream, okay? So when it's presented the proper way, which we teach in the course, dang, it converts, we found, 8 out of 10 times, no problem. So I can't imagine, we don't know the particulars, so I don't want to, come down on the person that suggested that in the Facebook group, and I want to encourage Facebook group participation, particularly Facebook participation that is goal-oriented, or they're stating what they're going to do in the future, like I'm going to finish this module by next week, this kind of stuff, accountability, or I had this win this week and this stuff. And I want to encourage that kind of stuff on that. So anyways, I think I answered that on that, but well, let me just I just go on for a long time for this kind of stuff. But anyways, easy, difficult factors on this. Look, our method for contacting the customers and letting them know about what we have. First of all, you have to truly believe that. It's not like a blind belief. Like I'm not talking about that kind of bullshit. You got the best deal in town. Period. What are they going to do? They can invest in SEO, invest in Google AdWords, they can go buy leads from someone else that's shared with 3 or 4 other competitors in the industry and all kinds of other stuff out there. You're offering a pure, real deal. Okay, and we go over that in the course, talk about that. We show you the exact videos, landing page that we use, and we're, in short, driving the customers to our website to explain what it is we do and how amazing it is, and we add scarcity to it, and so they're fully aware of what's going on. So anyways, okay, if you have existing local niche sites okay, that are not ranking on the first page of Google, okay, so there's a lot of people out there like that, no worries, and haven't done much in the way of backlinking, what should you do to those sites to get them to rank? 301. Yeah. Okay, 301. Okay, I'm starting to do backlinks and see what happens. Okay, so first of all, I mean, the first two solutions are, a 301 direct and then added backlinks and just see what happens. This is like the completely roll the dice stuff that doesn't freaking work, okay? In the course, I clearly outline step by step. First of all, whatever niche you're in, okay, look, okay, so people say, okay, Chris, you're just in a few niches, your company, you got 3,000 sites, what the hell's going on? The math doesn't make sense. Okay? It doesn't make sense to you because you're not thinking outside the freaking box. Okay? We find a niche that works well in a city, okay, let's say it's Plummer, Houston, okay, and it's profitable. Guess what the hell I'm going to do at that point? I'm going to create another site, okay, and another site, and another site, and another site. And this is not what anyone in the call needs to do to be successful, okay? I was wildly successful before I did this. But I'm just saying, I'm taking it to the next extreme, okay? So, so in the few niches that my company's in, guess what? We dominate page 1 of Google because it's the best freaking real estate in the world, okay? And we do it with different sites. So we say, oh, this is profitable, we got companies in there, this is good. Why don't we just limit ourselves to one site? We get another one. Okay, so anyways, look, so that approach versus I'll just do a 301 redirect and just kind of do some backlinks and see what happens. No, 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 no. It doesn't work that way, people. Okay? Look, I appreciate you sending in the question, whoever you are. So I'm not like bashing on you. I'm just kind of giving you some tough love. So appreciate that. Okay? So look, this brings in so many topics. So first of all, just screw the 301. Okay? This is like shortcut methods. This is the I want to take the pill to lose 50-pound methods. Fuck that. Get rid of the 301 direct methods. There are ways to do it, and I could show you, but you're not ready for it. Okay? So just don't do it. As far as like backlinks, you want to get backlinks, your first layer of backlinks, you first need to be logging in from an IP address within the city you want to rank. Revolutionary, right? Want to rank in San Diego? Guess what? Log in from a San Diego IP address with a Gmail account that has been phone verified from a San Diego phone number, okay? And then start interacting with the local community within your niche, forums and blogs, and leaving comments, okay? Google loves this kind of shit, and no one out there is talking about this stuff. Nobody, okay? But this just, I'm telling you, it freaking works, and it makes total sense when you really let go of all the dogma and the groupthink that maybe you've been led to believe through all the years and the flashy courses. And oh my God, I could go off for so much about so much bullshit out there. It's unfucking believable. Look, this is the real shit. It really freaking works. Okay, so you got a separate Firefox account that you only log in when you're logging in for that niche. You've got a local IP address from a really good proxy that passes all the standards so that Google knows that, hey, they really think you're from San Diego. And then you start looking in, and you're looking at San Diego blogs for plumbers, and you're writing comments, and you've got a do-follow backlink that's going back to your site, and you're commenting intelligent things back to blogs that are within that city, okay? That stuff counts way more than some kind of, trust flow of 40 from some other goddamn site from nowhere, okay? Just trust me on this kind of stuff. So, hope I answered your question, or at least, I don't know, woke you up a bit. All right, next question. I got to get through this kind of quickly, so I get kind of emotional about this. So, I have a relatively new domain, all right? And set up a subdomain for a specific city. which is not what you're teaching. I'm not. I do not teach subdomains. So it's not like www.mySite.cincinnati.com or Cincinnati.mysite.com.com. So I'm not teaching that, okay? It is not ranking. Big surprise. Should I delete the subdomain and set up another site? Look, your domain already has a bad, more than likely has kind of a bad relationship with Google. It's a $7 or $8 domain. Get rid of it and start over. Okay, I have purchased domains that may not be .com. Look, I just teach get .com, or if you're in the UK, get .com UK. Whatever city you're in, get the very toppest domain. Okay, don't mess around with these .nets and stuff. I'm telling you, just don't do it. Okay, but .net or .org for some niches, for some clients, lead generation. Should I not use those and find it? Yes, find.com. Okay, these are just $10 things. Look, if you were going to open up a Subway, which is like a really big franchise, right? You'd have to drop down, I don't know, depending on the location and the place, $250,000 at least. And then you're going to be in a freaking green Subway apron, working 60, 70 hours a week, and maybe you might make $30,000 or $40,000 your first year. Maybe. That's a really poor rate of return. This business entry point is so low. Domains. If the domain doesn't fit the guidelines, get rid of it. All right. Sorry this is so small if you're watching on this, and I'm squinting my eyes. So here we go. I have a site that is already ranking for a few cities across different states, but want to continue to expand the site. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. I was wondering if your local wondering for your local backlinks. Do you link to the inner pages? Okay, so what I teach in the course, that's a good question. So as far as backlinking back to your site, and I teach doing a master domain, which is one domain for one ditch in many cities. There's so many reasons to do that. Anyways, how do you backlink to it? So the rough guideline is 80% your homepage, home pages, okay? 80% of your total links to your home pages that run across different cities. But what you'll find is that once you get amassed, once you're ranking on page one, you got a good trust with Google, Google's like, thinks you're cool and stuff, and you're like on page one in like 4 or 5 cities or 6 cities, there's a tipping point. Somewhere around there. Depends on the nature, of course. I can't predict it. And Google's like, you're cool. You're going to, I see what you're doing. You're going to open up this next city? No problem. Send us a backlink and we'll just go ahead and rank you on page one. It kind of works that way. It's really cool. So how do you backlink to that? So you're going to backlink to about 80% of your backlinks spread out throughout your home pages, okay? And then about 20% to what I refer to as your service posts. So every niche and service, like you list it out, we do this, boom, 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 boom. And those services that hyperlink to a post that explains that service more. So we're a pest control company and we do scorpion removal. Okay, I click on that and that's part of our services. I click on that, it takes me to a post all about scorpion removal. Good quality, original content, some images, all that kind of stuff. And I would link to that first. Okay. All right, I've answered that question. Another small one. I have to get people to spread these out on 2 screens or something. It's way too small for me too. So anyways, I have a question. What if I'm building a website that has more than one level of service? do I create a page for each service? So let's say that I'm building HVAC, heating and cooling. That's a plumber for Chicago. Heating, cooling, indoor activity, and duct cleaning. So the page would be www.mysite, and the home page would talk about all 4 areas of these services with the links to the page like you do. And www.mysite.com/Chicago Heating would be Chicago Heating, and the home page would be this. Okay, so I understand the question. Let me answer this. So fortunately, not many offline niches fall into the category that's being asked to, maybe 10 to 5%. And that is where, look, when you're trying to rank a page and you're getting your keywords together, the keywords need to be really belong to one group. And what do I mean by that? That group needs to be well, logically related. They probably all 4 to 7 of them, all have at least one word in common, if not 2. So like for the plumbing niche, it would be like, plumbers in Phoenix, plumbing in Phoenix, best plumbers, that kind of stuff. All that, you can take one page and rank it for. And as far as the keywords go, you don't need to get each one of those keywords in the home page. What you need to do is you need to look at those keywords and say, okay, plumbing is in there. We're going to trust our plumbers in there. We're going to trust that Google will rank us for plumbing, and we don't need to include plumbing into our home page. Are you tracking with me here? It's a lot smarter than what you think. I mean, once you get a few authority backlinks to your site will freaking rank for like everything related to your niche. Google has something like that figured out, trust me. So it's not like when you got 4 to 7 keywords that are kind of in the same group, like plumbing or plumbers, that you need to have all 7 of those keywords on your home page. You just need to have the core ones. So, you know, if plumber is your core one, which more likely it would be, you don't need to include plumbers or plumbing, okay? You don't need to include that kind of stuff. Google figures that stuff out way smarter than you and I, at least from a search engine perspective. If one of your other major keywords is like plumber in Phoenix, you don't need to have plumber in Phoenix in your home page. Have the word plumber somewhere, which you naturally would if you're a plumber site, right? And then probably towards the bottom, you'd have your address and you'd have your city name, right? So there's your city name. Google will figure out the end part, okay? But when you try to force that kind of stuff in, Google doesn't like that. So I hope I answered that question. Well, okay, and so then, let me just go on here. So then, in the plumbing niche, yes, in plumbing, heating and cooling is a completely other set of keywords, another set of group words. But what you have, well, I think, I don't know for sure because I'm not in that niche, but I think what you'll find is that if you search for the, what you need to do is Google will tell you the answers. So if you just search for, Havoc HVAC in Chicago, you're going to pull up a group of sites, right? Open up another browser window and then search for heating in Chicago, and then search for, air conditioning in Chicago, and see if on all 3 of those tabs that you have open, if the same sites show up for page 1. If they do, then that tells you, Google tells you, that one page can rank, one page based around heating and cooling can rank for page one, including the heating and the air conditioning. So that's how you tell. All right, I got to start buzzing through these questions on me. Good thing is that one we already answered. After your initial keyword research in one city, do you always choose the same keywords for other cities? As your example that I gave in the course, it was Cash for Cars, case study on that, or variations. It depends on the area, and so it's a good question. So there is no black and white, right? I think we all want to have, we all come to conclusions of black and white answers. You want to be aware of this too, both in business and in life. And we all want to be, we're posed with a question, and we want to have easy, fast answers. So we just immediately, in our mind, if we don't have the answer for it, we want to find the answer for it. It's the way our minds are built. And we just immediately come up with a conclusion, whether it's irrational or not. Happens a lot in politics and life. But anyways, so to answer your question directly, on here is that you may notice, and you need to be kind of like a curious George. I don't know if you read those when you were a child, but you need to be kind of a curious George. You need to look around and kind of poke around. And you may notice that, hey, in these four cities, this particular main keyword was just like, it was obviously the top, but I go over to this other city and it's not. So start looking around at the suggestions because things can change geographically. Not by that much, and you'll find another keyword, and it's okay. You'll still probably keep your main keyword. It's just from city to city it may vary, and in most cities it'll be the top searched one, but in some cities you may find another one that will trump it and be number one. It's okay, relax, you're cool with it. I teach doing original content per city, per homepage, and you just have to add it in there. It's not a big deal. So you're good. Okay, what if the niche does not have a 3-pack? In other words, the Google 3-pack. You search for it and there's no Google 3-pack listing. Is that a variable? Is that still viable niche? Heck yes. And you have to be kind of careful about that. In the course, actually learned, and now part of the course, learned by a member. There are a lot of smart members in CallZoo. Is share a link to where you can actually search for a term in a particular area, and Google will show you, because you're in Google's framework, it will show you the actual results. It will show up for a particular area. So if you're not aware of that, make sure to look in the members area for that. But so I would make sure that you're doing that first. Make sure that you're searching under kind of Google's eye in a particular area in your niche. And if no 3-pack shows up again, no worries. It's not a problem. There are actually some niches out there where none show up. But if no Google 3-pack shows up and you don't have any paid advertising, that's a problem. You should always have paid advertising around it. Google AdWords. So Google AdWords is really the main criteria. So you search for something, there's no Google 3-pack, no big deal. You look for the paid advertising, oh, it's there, we're cool. And then it has the searches, then you're definitely cool. This might have been answered elsewhere, and I missed it, okay? If we are doing more than one niche in a city, should we have a different IP address? I would say yes. So if you're opening, I would encourage you not to open up, say in Houston, Texas, a plumber niche, and an electrician niche, 2 different sites. I would encourage you not to do that. You're going to be much better off in business in general if you pick one specialty and go deep. Anyways, So, you know what, if you want to, one thing you could do is keep the same, Houston IP address, and then you do two different Firefox plugins, so it's separated. Because that kind of makes sense, right? One Firefox entry is only going to the electrician. The other Firefox entry is only going to the plumber. They have the same IP address because they live next to each other. Okay, cool. So that's how I'd address that. We're pretty careful about that kind of stuff. I would actually put a different IP address on that end of it. We've seen so many examples. There's so many examples of the sites we have. I wish I could show them, but I can't. I've showed sites in the past, and then everybody just freaking ruins it. But anyways, we're clearly ranking. I mean, we are ranking #1, and according to what every other SEO expert, including Moz, okay, so Moz is fucking up big time on a lot of things. They don't always believe what they say, okay, for their authority, and even Majestica is, all right. I'm talking about facts and real things here. Reality. This is what's happening right now. We're ranking on page 1 for many, not one site, but many sites. And we shouldn't be, according to the experts. And I strongly believe it's because we have a local IP address with a separate address. We've got local backlinks, which nobody is talking about. Okay? I'm from Houston. I got a plumber company. I'm interacting with other blogs from Houston about plumbing. Okay? Anyways. Okay. Let's continue on. I'll try to move a little bit faster pace. In Module 2, Part 1, the list of non-spammy domains. Oh boy, another domain question. I don't mean that, oh boy, like that. I mean, like, there's just a lot of them. I need to kind of clear the area on this example. You still have the keyword plumbing in there. Isn't it still going to put a spammy keyword in anchor text? So is it okay to have one word in the domain that's related to the services? Okay. All right. So let's just kind of get this out of the way. If you, in my opinion, from my experience, and from studying hundreds of other successful local businesses out there, if you have a brand, and Google's clearly expressed this publicly, they're looking for brand names. If you just create a brand, and it doesn't have the keyword in there, you're going to be better off. If it's a brand type name that happens to kind of naturally put one single keyword in there, I think it's okay. You go beyond that, you're looking at some major spam stuff. Okay? We're not talking about human reviews, we're talking about a dumb, stupid algorithm. Okay? Spider is going to come across and look at your backlinks and your domain, and it doesn't make any goddamn sense. You have a domain name that's Plumbers in Phoenix. It doesn't make, no one would freaking name their site that except for an SEO person. Okay? So 24-hour rescue, 24-hour pipe rescue or something. That makes sense. Okay? So when in doubt, just remove all keyword domains. If you come up with a name that could possibly be related to your niche, but Roto-Rooter isn't. Okay? Best Buy isn't, but it works, right? Okay? It really works. So the whole notions of this keyword domains it's I appreciate you sending the question in. We get at least 100 questions a week on the same topic on our support desk. It's so hard for people to unengineer their SEO training that they need to have. Oh God, I gotta have at least one keyword in my domain or I just can never rank. Let it go. There you go. Okay. I live in the Tri-Cities. For those of you in the States, you may or may not know what that is. Each county has a main city and about 3 to 4 good-sized smaller cities. A total of 12 to 15. Already overcomplicating the situation. Anyways, that I believe would work for my niche. I'd like to start here. I don't know anyone, and very few data comes back from Google when you're doing AdWords that have to do with counties. Just saying. Most people, if they're living outside of Chicago just a little bit, and they're looking for something in Chicago or even by the area, they even type in Chicago. Okay, it's just the way it is. I mean, if I live in Lakewood, I think it's been a while since I've been in Chicago. Can't even remember some of the suburbs that are right there, but they're really close by. But those people in those close by suburbs, like Aurora, there's another one. Aurora. If I'm in Aurora and I'm looking for something, something of significance, most people don't type in Aurora something. They type in Chicago, okay? And my point is they certainly don't type in the county name, which if you look on a map, counties are like huge, cities are small. Okay. My question is, if starting with one IP address, can I build the 3 mains right away? Yes. Then add the 9 to smaller cities. Yes. But only add the smaller cities if they got some searches to them. So just go into Google AdWords and type in your small city. And if it's got 40 or 50 searches to it, sure, why not? It'd be easy enough to rank, right? But if it doesn't have any searches, then do it. Or simply start with one city. What is the time frame for adding these additional cities? Look, I'll look at this. Okay, quick question. Okay, I'll get the good question about it. Look, this is it. If you're going to start it out, you want to start out big, okay? Don't start out small, okay? Start out big, go for a bang, right? Okay? You want to wake up the world, you want to shake things up, and don't be afraid to make mistakes, okay? Look, some of the most amazing people in the world have totally changed our lives on this end of it. They've made thousands of mistakes before they hit it. So everyone out there tries to work so carefully, blah, blah, blah. So you want to look out there and be bold. And it says, you know what? Houston, Texas got the highest searches for it. You're going to freaking start there. And my next highest city has got searches happens to be Dallas. So I'm going to start, my second city is going to be Dallas. I'm not going to mess with any of these little outliner cities on that end of it. And then my next one is, it's going to be Fort Worth or Austin. And then after that, it's going to be San Diego. And it's going to be LA. And it's going to be San Francisco. I'm going to go for it, okay? I'll come pick up these little tiny county countries later, okay? But I need to increase my company revenue about an additional 5%, right? Okay? To forest, knock down the trees and go for it. IP address. You start out in one state, you build up, let's say, 3 or 4 cities, and you're ranking on page one from that. IP address, say Texas, you're ranking for 3 cities, page 1 from a Texas IP address. You've established some pretty darn good trust with Google. They're okay with you keeping the same IP address and expanding out to other cities. All right, okay, that's good. I guess that's it. Cool. I don't know if my sound just went out, went off air, whatever. I have no idea. So it's recorded though. So no matter what, I know I'm recording, right? So let's so put the question box so I can do that. I don't know why I'm making people not allowing me to do this, because I really want to get in and chat with you guys if you're there. For some reason it's not. There's, I hope I'm not having is major technical difficulty. I don't like this. Well, if you do the recording, you can see that I cannot open up my question box to answer questions. Very strange. The fact that nothing is, that my computer has decided to just not do what I wanted to. Maybe I'm off air, who knows? Okay. Okay, that worked. Maybe I've been dead silent hour. Who knows? Again, I have the questionnaire open, so apologize if there's technical difficulties. Anyways, back on here. Just keeps using new hardware. Yes, I do. Okay. Should I be here, or am I better served with the content with Module 1? Sean asks. I think you should be here. There's some valuable content added here, but your ultimate focus is Module 1. It's like over 4 hours of stuff that I've filmed, and I got a lot of positive feedback with people saying that they've never received that kind of quality of information on how to pick out a niche. And obviously we have really good support system, which is going to look at your, as long as you do the work and you look at 20, 30, 40 niches and you narrow it down to your top 1 or 2 or maybe even 3, we'll be happy to look at it and give you our feedback. Just another, glance on that, kind of like your, executive board. So be it. Thank you for everything you do and offered in your course. From David, you're very welcome. Sound is muffled. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We'll work on it. Yeah, audio. Okay. Okay, so William asks on here, this is more of a personal development question. So the person you become doesn't, in caps, want to win the lottery. What about the person you used to be before you transformed? Yeah, I was a lazy son of a bitch before, absolutely, for 41 years. So I would totally before want to win the lottery. That's the mindset, right? Loving this. Thank you. It's like the guy at the exit ramp holding the sign will work for money. It really will not work for money. So true. So true. It's like when I go to, you go to big cities. Actually, I mean, the most big cities that I've been to that have the most prevalent homeless people is the U.S. I'm serious. I mean, I've been all over the world. And anyways, but when they approach you for like $1 or $2 or whatever, I don't know, it's like a cartoon character out of some kind of unreal show or something. It's like, hey, you got $2 so I can, get some meal or something like that. And I just look at them and I think to myself, and I'm a kind person. I hope that comes off. But I'm also a strong person. I'm also, a developing person. And I look at that person and I go, dude, what the hell, man? I hand you $2 or $5. You know what? You're going to walk away after that and go, ha, ha, ha. You're going to go off to your job while I got the best deal and I'm going to go get a meal and a beer or whatever. It's just like, Jesus Christ. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. Alrighty. In the course you clearly outlined, in which course, David? This is the new CallZoo course. So if you're wondering what it is and you want to know more details and you're not in already because you don't want to get left behind, then you can definitely definitely get a hold of support.callzoo.com and support@callzoo.com. Okay, cool. Alrighty. Yeah, it's not my mic, unfortunately. It's my internet connection. I really do apologize. Okay, good stuff in here. Good. Okay, so, all right. Okay, so I'm just kind of skipping the questions. I want to answer questions that I think would answer the majority the most on here. I'm actually going through module 1, and I have almost gotten to the spreadsheet, completing for some niches. I am pretty sure I'll be able to submit those. Yeah, 20 seconds or after, just do it. The action on the end of it. Okay. Is it possible to reset the playback of volume? It's not. The playback volume is set. But I think you sent in a request in support earlier, and so all future, from whenever you send it in, all future recordings, when they go back to the cutting desk, basically, is that we have a, anyways, we can go to regular, volume, which is 100%, and then we increase it to 130%. If we increase it higher than that, then it becomes a little too staticky for everybody else. So we got to find a halfway medium. So with that, that's the last question I see. So I'm going to give last call for questions. So if you've got a question on here, now is your time. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up. So looking for questions. Okay, here we go. Question. Okay, I'm in the UK. Do you think I need to register in some other way and or I'm in the UK? Oh, let me click on it to get this. Sorry. Oops. Okay. I'm in the UK. Do you think I need to register in some other way and change the sales tax for leads in the US? Ugh, sales tax question. Best answered by a tax professional. I mean, I'm not trying to avoid the topic on that, but I'm just not, frankly, I'm not a tax expert for the UK, and the whole VAT, value-added tax bullshit. What an incredible name for a tax, value-added tax. What a bunch of bullshit. Anyways, you probably need to talk with your tax person about that. But because, I'm speaking strictly from a layman's perspective, if you're getting leads from the U.S., you're not located in the U.S., you're not doing business in the U.S., I mean, you're not doing transactions in the U.S., the transactions that you're doing is taking place from a PayPal account or something from the U.K. or, somewhere else. That's a whole other discussion. But outside the U.S., then you shouldn't be taxed in the U.S. But I'm not a tax expert on that, but you're going to be taxed like crazy from the UK. That's just, they're broke like other countries, so they got to tax your ass. What is the difference between the Causeway 1 and Causeway 2.0? Rhonda asked. In short, night and day. Okay. In AdWords, what if there's no cost per click listing? Then avoid it. So if you're in a niche and you're searching around and you don't see any cost per click, you don't see any AdWords showing up on the results, get out, basically. You mentioned that you have a template for getting your content put together. Can you share that with content putting together? Valerie, I don't know quite what you're asking. I mean, we don't have a template for content to put together. My staff has writers. We have writers on my staff. They write content, but there's no necessarily content. There's certainly quality control, involved here, but there's no definite template. If I misunderstood the question, didn't answer it correctly, just contact our support and we can take a closer look at it. Want to promote in a city and I live in a different state. Do I need to do Fox? Yes. So look, I mean, if you live in the UK and you wanna, you've done proper data research in your niche, and you think the best place is to open up in, you know, San Diego, then you need a freaking San Diego IP address. If you're, you know, if you live in the US, for example, and you live in Florida, and you've done your proper research, so you're making intelligent choices, and you know, you think that New York is the best place to open up based on the data, then you need a New York IP address. When is the training for the private blog network going to be evaluated? Asked Tony. Well, I would come back and say, Tony, when you know you want to make sure that you have your niche figured out, certainly take advantage of us taking a look at it on that. And then on top of that, Tony, you're going to need to build out your page, your content, and all your posts. A lot of work so far, right? It's okay. We're not selling easy here, okay? And then on top of that, getting your local backlinks from local niches, which we outline in the course. Then the next stage on that would be a crowdsourcing. And then the next stage after that would be 2.0. And then the next stage after that would finally be private blog networks, which we will give you a list of ones that are available that you can just buy anywhere, that are just readily available. You know, GoDaddy, Namecheap, wherever you buy your domains, doesn't matter. These are the little ones that other people stuff don't see. And so a lot of work before then. So Tony, if you've already done all that work that I just mentioned right here, then kudos to you, and then I sincerely apologize for not having it up. But if you haven't, then get your ass in gear, because you cannot, like 99.9% of the people that hop on the course, they just like to go right to the very end. I don't know, I haven't really thought about it because I haven't taken the time to do it. But they're like, they skip modules 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They go right to the end. They're like, where's the Google Play Store stuff? I'm like, dude, chick, you cannot even be looking at this or even attempt to get it until you go through the other modules. It's a process. We're building a business here, not a hacking system, not a click this, click that, make money system. I've never expressed myself or the business that I run like that. Okay. Is the invoicing and call tracking confidential? Yes, it's confidential. Good question. Can I add Callzoo account? Can I add a Callzoo account and have two at David? David, yes. That's a great technical question. Well, support question, not technical, that's a support question. So support.callzoo.com. Support.callzoo.com. Okay, cool. Alrighty. What anchor text should be used from the service post? Good question. This is a member question, obviously. From the service post to the second page. Okay, so the service post, you know, if you're in the course, you're looking through it and you're up to that area on here and you're thinking to myself, okay, I've already found a niche, I've got a domain, I've got my home page, and now I'm getting ready to do my service post before I go live to the world. Your service post, the anchor text will be whatever that service is. So it's just, and the best way to do it, and I go through it on the course, is either to research the other competition that's out there, not just in your city, but you know, like the top 3 or 4 or 5 within your city and other ones, and look and get to understand your niche enough to know that, hey, My niche may have these 4 to 5, 7 keywords that, give me 5 or 600 to 800 searches on average per month. But we do offer some other separate services that maybe don't show up for any searches at all. That we're not doing this for searches, by the way. We're doing this to be congruent. Okay, it's very important to be congruent. Congruency. You may want to, if you don't quite understand what that is, you may want to look that up. So a pest control, for example, niche, they're going to rank, the most searches are going to be like pest control, and pest control, the city name, exterminator, and then exterminator, then city name. Those are probably going to be the 2 top searching things. And then your services would be listed out within your home page. It will link out to your service post. Could be stuff like, like wild animal removal. Okay, not going to get a whole lot of searches, but it would be expected that if you own you have a private, or you have a pest control niche, you might offer that kind of service. Beehive removal. Rats in attic removal, spider removal, okay, scorpion removal. I guess that's going to be more geographic, specific on here, but I think you get the idea. Okay, I'm not going to show up a lot of searches. That's not the point. If you're in a plumbing niche, then it's going to be a whole lot of little plumbing things like hot water heater removal. There's things that are becoming popular in the States. I've been out for a while, so I'm not really in tune with this kind of stuff, but there's different kind of hot water heaters that are not being offered that are not like just constantly on. Believe it or not, the rest of the world has hot water heaters that heats up your shower and your hot water tap, but it's not on all the time. It's just a little tiny thing. It's not this gigantic thing. It's just in the garage. But those are the services. So, okay. I have seen several niches that have no cost in the AdWords. Okay, cool. Tool, but yet have searches advertising and showing them. What's up with this? Well, Google's not perfect. Okay, there's no question about that. They're constantly changing things. If you start to monitor them, they're making errors all the time. But if you've got a particular keyword and it's got some pretty good searches in it that meet the criteria, and there's AdWords there, and when you're in your AdWords account it shows 0, no problem. The other indicators show it's good. AdWords, advertising, and search volume. That's all you need to know. Trust me, when you later come back and you start to layer on top of your organic searches some AdWords campaigns, if you decide to do that, they won't charge you nothing. Just like they're not charging nothing to the current people there. Alrighty, I'm going to wrap this up, people. I appreciate it. Yep, I pretty much taxed myself out. It's good. So I gave all that I could, and now I am done. I appreciate everybody out there for taking their time to come on the call. There was a ton of people on the call, so I really appreciate everybody taking time out of their busy lives to join me and join everybody else and get some value out of this. So if you have any other further questions, something that wasn't answered, whatever, the best place to go to. And I have really good staff, so people who are using it know it. Support.callzoo, KLLZU.com, support.callzoo.com. Ready pretty much 7 days a week, except for major holidays which are coming up. And they're cool. They're not just regular people who are just like trained only to answer support. They actually work on a business. So when they answer a question, that's because they know from experience. So that's the cool stuff about it. So anyways, take care. Adios. Make it productive. Don't be lazy. Make your sons do push-ups and sit-ups before every meal. and make sure your daughters earn and pay for their dinner dates. Take care. Bye-bye.